I've been trying to get to an archive to find out about a hospital that my mother worked at, where right after 45, where they had these books. And the books, the woman who I met, who is the lady who took care of this hospital little museum where my mother used to be a midwife, and some of the books she just gave to the archive. I'm going to go to the archive because she said I didn't want to have them in my presence because after 1945, all of these books were filled with women who were raped. So this was a midwife, I don't know how you say it in German, but a place where women gave birth.
Yeah.
And a lot of these women, she told me that if you look at the entries of the names of the women, because they did put the names of the women in there, then you could see who was raped and by the Russian soldiers.
Yeah.
Everybody knows this, but it's
Weapon-
definitely part of my history.
Weaponized.
Unbelievable. My mother was probably part of that. I don't know a lot of the stories of that personally, but she would tell me stories of what she saw and experienced.
So that was her
Most
way-
that experience too.
That was her way of dealing with it in her thing.
There's a lot of things that she didn't tell me. She told things to my brother that she didn't tell me, which is really weird.
Was she going through it, or was she not able to sort of work on it?
I know. She's an old school German, strong, softy, very powerful in that work, do your thing, come on, stop crying. She didn't like any of that stuff. She tough.
And
Tough.
did you get toughness from that,
I don't think so.
or quick wit?
I think I have what she had, which was she was always outraged by things in America and New York when there was like bureaucracy or something, you know, where she was always outraged and she would say something. She wouldn't put up, you know, with the garbage. She would say something. But she was a very Christian, Catholic, very devout, church every Sunday, wanted good things, just wanted a family after World War II. But it didn't work out. That was a disaster.
Did you tell the truth to your parents? Like, were they listening when you were outraged about someone?
No, I think my mother was very upset because I was very Holocaust. I brought the Holocaust up a lot in the 80s. And my mother never told me that she was in a labor camp, which would confuse the situation because my mother would end up yelling and screaming, in German, aber was, meine Leute, was passiert? Schlesien. So the whole story of deportations in Schlesien turning into Poland. So her people were destroyed from being German and then becoming Polish. That's a whole other story that I'm still researching and figuring out. But my mother was very angry at how I started blaming her for the Jewish Holocaust.
Because you didn't know that she was a victim.
I didn't know.
No.
And she never mentioned. She mentioned a lot of things to me, but she never mentioned that she was in this camp. And that's why it's still a mystery.
And is it
Still a mystery.
Was it maybe also because she was not Jewish? Was it making it harder for her to have any identity? Because
I think there was a lot of conflict. I don't think she ever dealt with it, but I think there was a lot of conflict. She told me that when she came to America in 55, those early years before the kids were born, she was attacked by a Jewish woman who attacked her in a store, saying, "You are Nazi." I mean, she told me that, and I think my mother was definitely degraded because she was German. She came to America, she was the loser. She was the German loser in America. She was a midwife. She had delivered 1,000 babies from 1944 to 1955. And she got to America with all of her papers and everything. And they said, sorry, your job is to wash the instruments.
Yeah.
You can do no other job here. And she wasn't allowed unless she went back to school. She was already older. My parents are older, much older. Like my father was like almost my grandfather. So they were much older than
When
normal
was she
parents.
born, if you know?
No, I
You
don't even. Yeah, I don't even want to age myself now. Vanity. I don't want to age myself. I feel like I'm 25. I know I look old. Anyway, what are you gonna do? But yeah, there's
did
you
your
know.
father-
Oh my God, no, they were.
But
It was a
you know,
marriage, Polish and German.
Gabor Mate says that
Polish and German?
people come together
Yeah, they
because
didn't.
they have
No.
the same level of trauma resolving.
Yeah, there
So
was
did
a
they
lot
have
of.
the same level of
No.
not resolving.
Yeah, I think there was just too much baggage that each couldn't handle. My father was Polish,
Yeah.
but he was also very pro-German,
Yeah.
even though he sounded like he had not the Stendhal system. What is it when you become part of your enemy, like you're in prison and you become part of the prison? It's called a not Stendhal system. It's called
Stockholm.
Stockholm system.
Yeah.
He was very pro-German. He
Yeah.
I mean, he was 6 years in a prison of war camp
Yeah.
with the Germans who hated the Polish. But then he loved Germany, he loved the culture, he loved, but they hated each other. There was always fighting, loser, winner, loser, oh, you're a peasant. My mother was a midwife. He wanted to be something. He wanted to be a professor. He couldn't be a professor in America either. This is, the immigrant story of the immigrants who come to another country and are doctors in their country or journalists.
Yeah.
And when they get to the new country, you wash dishes.
I have a book about that, about immigrants, Jewish immigrants who survived
Yeah.
the Holocaust and who were poor in America.
Yeah. But a lot from what I've met in terms of the Jewish immigrants, I have to say the Jewish culture, because they're very, very united versus like maybe the German culture.
Yeah.
The Jewish culture was very, very united and helped each other. And there's a lot of success. Even if they hid like Holocaust survivors. So many amazing stories that I have of Holocaust survivors that created amazing businesses, multi-million-dollar businesses. Or there's a great tailor in New York. I hope he's still alive. I've heard him speak so many times. Comes from such poverty, and he was like working with movie stars, but he's full of life human being, like great human being. What a survivor. But then I've met survivors of Holocaust that are finished, like
And how,
they can't even function.
how do you think your father survived mentally?
He didn't.
Yeah.
He didn't. He wasn't. I mean, I think my brother is so messed up because my father was very, very. He was much worse with my brother than he was with me.
Yeah.
On a. I think with my brother it was psychological violence, and with me it was also problematic. But yeah, no, my father was definitely a broken, abusive, and alcoholic, and more so psychologically, I think, the psychology of the people. And that's what's interesting about Germans, Even though my father was Polish, still, he was part of World War II. And that's why I'm always fascinated with German people and how they live and how they get on with it and what they talk about. And most never want to talk about it. Most never want to talk about World War II and their family. They don't want to go there. Majority of people I speak to, even young people, the young people usually say, we really don't talk about it in my family. We really, young people even say that. Or, I never got a chance to speak to my grandmother about this, but she was always very depressed, or she was nasty. She was a very nasty woman. I hear that a lot too. This kind of block, like there's always a wall and you can't get through to the healing.
And if your father was the weaker one?
Yeah, he was much weaker than my mother. Absolutely.
And do you have a theory why they found each other?
Oh, it's a dramatic. It's not a dramatic story, but it's a pathetic story. I mean, they met. My father put an advert in a paper in the 50s when he came to America, and my mother answered the advert. I mean, to me, it's even hard for me to even say it.
Did you read the advert?
I don't know. But there's a lot, I'm a writer and I'm working on a novel which doesn't have to do with my family. It's another World War II thing, but this is a project for another time because there are stacks and stacks and stacks of letters that they wrote each other that I can't read because it's in German, but the handwriting is very hard to read.
Should I have a look?
I have some here. I brought some, but they're mostly in America.
Yeah.
And
you could photo them when you're there.
Yeah.
You could photograph them.
yeah, I mean, it's stacks and stacks of letters. So, yeah, and they both had some sort of mysterious, like my thing is maybe my mother had something happen to her, like rape-wise, reproductively-wise, like something was not right. And she wanted to leave Germany fast. Sometimes it's better, sometimes it's better to be nice. Remember with the Iranian guy at Rosenthaler Platz, when the guy was yelling at me? The Zionist, he was Iranian, and he was yelling at me, what gives you the right to speak for the Palestinian people, whatever, you white girl, or whatever he said. And did you see, I couldn't, I was so outraged, but all I could do was say, I feel really sorry for you. I mean, sometimes you gotta, I know I'm Miss Ranter and Raver and Screamer,